All right, the reviews and the ratings for this movie are all over the place. Let's start by saying that the movie came out in 2003. The budget on the movie was 26 million. The box office was 91 million. Those are all right numbers for a movie like this. So, Common Sense Media gave it a 20%. Rotten Tomatoes, 50. Internet Movie Database, 62. And Google users, 86 to 89. Wow. But hey, that happens with movies. I mean, some sources are going to give it a low rating, others will give it a high rating. It really just depends on the individual. It depends, like I say, you watch the movie and judge for yourself. Me personally, I would give it about if I'm not mistaken, I think I gave the first one maybe a 7 or an 8. This one I think gets like a 7, 7.5. It's almost kind of similar. But as I get more and more into these types of movies, I'm thinking to myself, like, this is crazy. Like, their group of people are basically supposed to die at one point. And some of them do end up dying in different ways. And if it's not one way, it's another. It's like either way, you're doomed. Now, you have some of the same cast members. You had, where is it? I just saw it. Okay, so Ali Larter had reprised her role as Clear Rivers. And then you had A.J. Cook, who's very well known for her role as Jennifer Giroux in Criminal Minds. She played Kimberly here. Michael Landis played Thomas Burke. Tony Todd played William Bloodworth. Noel Fisher played Brian Gibbons. Sarah Carter played Shayna Gordon. Keegan Connor Tracy played Kat Jennings. And Jonathan Cherry played Rory Peters. Now, Google synopsis, and then I'll get to Common Sense Media. Kimberly has a premonition of a horrible highway accident killing multiple people, including her and her friends. She blocks the cars behind her on the ramp, joining traffic. And as a police trooper arrives, the accident actually happens. Now, death is stalking this group of mistaken survivors. And one by one, they are dying as they're supposed to be on the highway. Yeah, so this movie is kind of crazy. I mean, it's different than your average horror film. It has some slasher-esque aspects to it, but it's not quite your typical slasher film. A little bit of supernatural-esque aspect to it, but it's not quite your supernatural conjuring type stuff. Or what's the other one? The Insidious, things like that. Now, if you saw the first Final Destination, or even just the preview for this sequel, then you are familiar with the plot. A group of people know that they are going to die. What they do not know is how this untimely event is going to take place. It is for this how that the audience eyes darting around the screen to pick out possibly lethal traps stays riveted for most of the movie's 100-minute running time. As with the first movie, the premise that we cannot escape death when our turn has come. So if we were meant to die in an accident but somehow skip this fate, then we are due another visit from death to correct the omission. Yeah, like I said, one way or another. In this case, strangers on the merge to the highway avoid death in the form of a fiery pileup due to the premonition of the pretty but interesting Kimberly. While still congratulating themselves for not dying, the survivors begin to fall victim to a string of bizarre accidents. Kimberly seeks out the sole survivor from those fated to die in the first movie, which is Clear Rivers, played by Ali Larter, who has some helpful things to say but cannot stop the body count from rising. Is it any good? Not bothering with everyday movie conventions like plot, acting, or logic, this wisp of a sequel found its competitive advantage in the first movie and pursued it with gleeful abandon. The first movie took the time to follow teen horror flick conventions to develop characters as thin as they were and to throw in some theories about why all these people were dying. In the second movie, all these time fillers are skipped, and the movie becomes a heaping helping of mind-boggling mayhem. Final Destination 2 asks why it should bother with the parsley of plot, dialogue, or characters when people just want a plate full of death. Well, still, you want some type of a plot and some type of character development. In many ways, tunneling all of the sequel's energies into a smorgasbord of imaginative deaths works better than the heavy-handed suspense of the original film. The acting is mediocre at best. Do they solve the riddle in time? Few will care, considering that there are no reason to like any of the characters, and the main thrill of the movie comes from the elaborate nature of the deadly accidents. If this movie is supposed to be a scary thriller, then it flies far off the mark. However, if Final Destination 2 seeks to take us to no further than bloody spectacle, then it does a fine job indeed. Again, it depends on who you ask. I'd say it's pretty decent, and so far I'm interested enough to still watch the other 3 movies now. They have 5 movies right now, and I think I may have seen something that said that there are 6 movies on the way, or considering to be on the way. So the first one about 7.5, I guess, maybe 8. This one right here, like 7.5. So I'll watch the other movies, and then I'll tell you what I think. Like and subscribe.